fans, Shane McKenna, Wrestling Fans Facebook group, and Shane does have his own the Wrestling Fans podcast. It's a good listen. If you're looking for another listen, go to Facebook and put in Shane McKenna and Wrestling Fans. It's a group called Wrestling Fans. Very good for Shane for getting a nice, simple name down. Shane had some follow-up questions to my Waffle House commentaries on the Becky Lynch, Charlotte shtick. Remember, folks, people seem to get really upset like this, like they're not going to have Becky Lynch in this fucking match. I mean, if they have to cart her out there in a fucking wheelchair, she'll be in that goddamn match. And there's conflicting reports if she actually does have a leg injury. I would say, who knows? I mean, it could be somewhere, truth meets fiction. I mean, I don't think she really has a leg injury, but if she does, obviously she can put weight on her leg. And 2 months away from Mania, I'm thinking she's going to be there. So don't get too worked up about it. So Shane's questions were twofold. First, he asked, who do I think Asuka? Asuka, the SmackDown's Women's Champion, who is she going to face at WrestleMania? My opening suggestion would be that I think it would be great if Asuka, either before Becky's announced to be in this thing as a three-way match, or even next week at some point, either on Raw or SmackDown, Asuka puts herself in this fucking match. And I think that you could put Asuka in for a week or two, probably just a week, because I think if you keep Becky out of the build for this match for too long, it's going to actually lose some people. Like, some people will be genuinely upset, whether they think it's real or just promotional strategies. So I think you got to put Asuka. I'm just thinking that everybody realizes that Becky's going to be in this match, but I guess there's a certain percentile of fans that don't realize that Becky, it's just a fucking work, that she's not going to be in it. So anyway, I think Asuka could be put into the match as kind of the transitional babyface if they're still going to stretch this out a little bit, and then Becky has to do something to get into this thing. Someone was suggesting it might have been Bubba Ray Dudley or Don Tony, DT Don Tony. No, it was Solid Monster. I think it was Solid Monster. All these guys I listen to. I don't listen to Bubba Ray that much, but I listen to him sometimes. But I think it was Solid Monster who was suggesting they actually might do something like the WrestleMania 30 with Daniel Bryan, where Becky has to beat Asuka in order to get into the match with Charlotte and Ronda. I don't think that's a good idea. I think you have to go into the WrestleMania with your main event locked in. I don't think that the two times that I can think of, the WrestleMania 30 or WrestleMania and the WrestleMania 10, when you don't know your final championship match going in, and I guess you can say WrestleMania 4 with Macho Man in the tournament, I think those are always kind of risky. Just as a fan's perspective, you don't really know what you're going to see at the end of the night, which could be exciting. I think for WrestleManias or a Starrcade pay-per-view, that's fine, but when you're talking about, in theory, your biggest show of the year, I don't think it's good. I think you have to have your main event locked in, and the tournament situations tend to water it down, or these beat this person in order to wrestle this person. I don't think it helps, because then you're tied into the thing where you have to definitely do the babyface has to win. Going back to Daniel Bryan, if they had Triple H had beaten Daniel Bryan in the opening match of that fucking WrestleMania, you wouldn't have much of a show after that, would you? So I just don't like when it's too predictable. I kind of wrap myself into a bunch of fucking existential questions there. So who do I think Asuka? I think I'd still go with my main pick. I'm going to go with Asuka in this thing in a four-way. I mean, at this point, if you're not going to give Becky versus Ronda straight up to satisfy all these Becky Lynch fucking fans, which is fine, she deserves the fans, then you got to go, you could do a three-person match, but I think four people is just, you're still going to have alienated and pissed off the people that wanted, one-on-one, but at one point, Asuka was the hottest female in the company, wasn't she? So why not put Asuka in the goddamn thing? That way, the better thing with a fatal four-way match, especially if they do elimination, which is what Bubba Ray was saying, that they should do elimination for the three-way, but for a four-way, you don't have to have someone sit on the fucking concrete for 10 minutes while they, sell, and the other two wrestle. I mean, that's, the triangle matches inherently have that issue. Next thing, Shane asked me, this is, okay, am I still Raw protesting? What's the status of Raw protesting? And then Shane said, you seem very angry. I am very angry, and then there's some legitimate reasons for that. I mean, the Raw ratings are in the goddamn toilet, and it's because that they don't have competent formatting. And when I say formatting, it's not the words on the paper of the script. What I mean is, that would just, to answer the question, Shane, of why I'm so angry with WWE. It's because I know I can do better as a fucking writer. That's why I'm goddamn angry. Because when and Stevie Richards on the brand pointed out that the WWE wrestlers sound like 80-year-old men, that the wrestlers are using words and speaking in patterns that are how Vince McMahon speaks, not how a 20-year-old or a 25 or a 30-year-old would speak. Especially the women, but also the men. They're speaking in these fucking cliches, and everybody sounds the goddamn same. Tonight in this ring, I'll show you. It's horrendous. So Shane wants to know, am I even watching the goddamn Raw? Raw protest is still going on in that I'm not taping it, I'm not watching it, but I'm not going to lie to you and say that I haven't seen some stuff, and in which case, yes, I've watched it, which would be basically the night that Roman retired. I made a point to kind of catch up to speed through hook or crook to see some of that. And that was that's going back 7 or 8 or 9 weeks at this point. I mean, time flies. But I'm not watching Raw bell to bell. Right now, I'm staying in a distant location, let's put it that way. And I caught some of SmackDown the other night, but it wasn't Raw. I missed Raw entirely because I was at a film in the theater. So as far as SmackDown, I saw most of that Kofi thing, which was great. I think one thing they could have done, which they didn't, I hate when they're trying to build a baby face and he submits or she submits. Like when Becky submitted to fucking Asuka at the Royal Rumble, I think that took a while. I mean, I guess call me goddamn old school. I mean, I remember when the big thing was people talked about how Rick Martel submitted to Stan Hansen with the Boston Crab, and he was forever shamed for this fucking thing. And then when Martel made Jim Neidhart submit to the Boston Crab for the WWF Tag Team titles, they said that was redemption for Rick Martel. So people used to take fucking submissions among the top people very seriously. Now it's just everybody's tapping. They're happy to tap. I would have liked to have seen Kofi counted out. Why couldn't they just have him lose by count out to AJ? And then he doesn't look like a guy who quits. I mean, you're trying to build him up as, oh my God, Kofi Kingston. After all this time, why'd you have to have him submit? Tap, okay? But why do I get so angry? I just do. I mean, it's just, and that's one thing. Okay, talk about fucking Jeffrey Helms or whatever the fuck, Shane Helms. He was saying there's so much good about wrestling right now. Anyone who posts negative stuff, you got to ignore them. It's like, well, I took issue with that because it's like if the things going on in wrestling, for instance, the horrible booking of WWE doing shows in Saudi Arabia, people being injured left and right, if all that shit is happening and people are talking about it, that's not the people's fault. They're not being negative. They're being true, okay? It's the people that want to shim-sham you and hide and put their fucking ostrich head in the goddamn stand and everything's fine, nothing's wrong. That's the people you have to fucking look out for, okay, Shane? So don't give me that goddamn wrestler fucking carny crap. I'm just sick of the goddamn wrestlers who don't want to address real issues. If you listen to Shane Douglas, if you listen to Vince Russo, Kevin Nash and Vince Russo, I was listening to them, had the conversation that was somewhere on fucking YouTube that I found. Kevin Nash and Vince Russo, two guys who I've spoken to at length personally, and I can tell you that they're men of integrity. And so when fucking other wrestlers, in this case, I like Shane Helms, I like the Hurricane thing, but when he's saying that, avoid negative people, I mean, that's such a fucking Girl Scout mentality. And no offense to the Girl Scouts, because at least they're selling cookies. MikeMessier.com.